r/AskReddit. Redditors who have tried to hide on your cruise when it ended so that you could stay on the ship for the next round. How did that go? I don't know if this counts, but on the last night of a cruise my friends and I got really drunk. Well, I don't know how the hell, but I ended up somewhere passengers shouldn't be, in a goddamn supply closet I believe. The ship had docked and there was a 2-hour search for me. Still drunk, I couldn't find a way to get out of the room where the supply closet was, but the door was locked. The crew thought I was trying to sneak another ride, but after reviewing the cameras they clearly could tell I was nowhere near sober. So they let me go on my way with a good laugh. To this day I still don't remember making my way down there. There was an episode of This American Life, I think, where a woman did this, but back in the day, like the 60s or early 70s. There were seating charts or something in the dining room so she couldn't sneak in to eat, and things that she assumed would be open most of night, like bars, weren't. She lived on a lot of bar garnishes and had to pretend she was drunk who kept passing out in the lounge. It was a lot less fun than she thought it would be, with very little sleep and cleaning herself up in public bathrooms while worrying she would be caught doing so at any time. She had to sneak back into her own country because she hadn't brought a passport. OMG, I've literally been wanting an excuse to post this on Reddit forever. Okay, so I went on a 1-week cruise with my girlfriend. We both got a bit tipsy and the idea came up. We both laughed and joked about it, but later that night, laying in my tiny ass cruise bed, I started seriously considering it. What followed was 4 days of the funestest ever, and I was super sad it was coming to an end. So being stupid, I said F it on the night of the last day. While walking around I found a little maintenance closet with a lock on it from the inside, so I stayed up all night until about 8 AM. We got off at 11, but my ass just chilled in there with the door locked. Eventually some worker needed to get in. When he couldn't, after a while he radioed to Sonode he was gonna go get a locksmith. At this point it was 1 PM and I was scared as S, so to try and look natural I put on a tool belt that was in there and started trying to make my way to the exit. I was nearly there when a worker stopped me and questioned me about it. He knew I wasn't supposed to be there, so he walked me out of the ship. Surprisingly no law enforcement was called. Not me, but a couple decided to hide to try get another week out of their holiday. This was while we were halfway through our holiday, so we heard it all. Dozens of announcements calling for them or anyone who's seen them were made throughout the day. Their rooms were searched and everything they owned in that room was seized. Apparently, the ship left port late by about 90 minutes, but they were eventually found and escorted off the ship when the crew decided to check the identity of every passenger on board. Well, I can actually kinda answer that. Okay, so it was not a cruise but a ferry. Also, we didn't hide on purpose. It was the ferry from Souris, Prince Edward Island to the Isles de la Madeleine, Quebec, Canada. A 12 hours ride. We embarked at 2 AM and found a very quiet spot to sleep. We slept through the landing and no one woke us up because no one actually saw us. When we woke up we saw the islands going away from us. Result: we spent 36 hours on that boat. Sorry for my bad English. Used to be in the USCG. We had this happen a few times in Miami. They were all escorted off the ship. Typically the police handle the situation, but if a stowaway was discovered while still in the 312-mile range, we would render assistance once they were apprehended by the onboard law enforcement. I don't know if this counts, but my dad got locked in a toilet cubicle on a ferry to France and it took several people to find him. The toilet was right out of the way and you couldn't hear him yelling even right outside in the corridor because the doors were so massive. I guess he could have gone immediately back to England, could have become a ship toilet hermit. Ships tend to have really good tracking of their packs. There's security cameras everywhere and when you disembark they give the ship a really good walkthrough. All the passenger areas are easy to see through and have no hiding places, and if a packs were to be in a crew area, it happened every now and then, we would notice immediately. I've never had passengers try to stow away, but I've definitely seen crew run away from the ship. Mostly happens in American ports. Personally, when I was working on ships I couldn't wait to get the F off them every time I saw land. Why people cruise to begin with is beyond my comprehension. A little different. I was going through a really hard bout with depression in 2012 and really had nothing going on in life besides an overnight job at a gym. My parents decided to do a family cruise in March as our Christmas present. I was actually planning on saying goodbye to my family at the end of the trip and just getting off at the last island and not getting back on. Then I found out the cruise company would alert local authorities that I didn't get back on. I wanted to just island skip for a while instead of backpacking through Europe to do some thinking and adventuring. I didn't want to end up in some Caribbean jail. My friend did this. He can't handle his drink and we were on a mini cruise crosses from Newcastle to Amsterdam. After a good few drinks he loses it, rips a table from the wall and throws it away. Took his top off as well as another friend's top and threw them overboard shouting wee I. He was quickly sent to the brig and had his passport confiscated, meaning he couldn't get back on the boat after our day in Amsterdam. So he tried to hide under the bed. According to his story he couldn't fit so his feet were sticking out a bit and said he got caught straight away. They threw him off and we never seen him that day. Imaginably when we got back on the boat to no friend under the bed, we were concerned. We chose his closest friend to call his dad to say we have lost your son Lmao, and his answer was oh I know we booked him a flight. Turns out he ventured off the boat in a panic. Somehow managed to find a British embassy and explained his situation. Not sure how but they organized him to fly home without a passport. Every time I see him I ask him to tell me the story again for a laugh. An ex of mine was an onboard cruise photographer. I remember asking her something similar before, and she told me they swipe on and swipe off everyone, on every stop, at every time. She did say that she'd known people to try and stow away, but basically it turns into a massive Easter egg hunt to find the person. The liner she was on always awarded the staff member that found the person with some sort of bonus, but she never told me what it was. I remember her saying that someone caused a ship to be something like 6 hours late to leave because they'd done such a good job at hiding. Eventually they were found or gave themselves up and were arrested by port authorities. While I won't rule it out as an impossibility nowadays, it would be extremely difficult. First, you're scanned on and off the ship, so they'd know you never got off. So now you're hiding on the ship. WTF are you going to do? You won't be able to get into or back into your room. You won't be able to eat or drink on some of the cruises since you'll need a valid key card or wristband. You'll be carrying all your stuff around, since you'll have nowhere to store it. You might make it to the first port without being caught, but then you'd probably want off and when you get scanned off you're busted. I'd say it's 99.9% likely you spend your stowaway cruise in the ship's jail cell until you get back to home port. Wouldn't happen. You have to check out with your cruise card ID. If you aren't checked out, they'll announce on the intercom to check out, whilst sending out teams to look for you. After 20 minutes, they will announce again upping the ante saying you are in violation of maritime law. Once they find you you're never going on a cruise again and will face a hefty fine. Source: friend worked for cruise lines for 4 years. Not a stowaway but a cruise ship worker for Royal Caribbean. This is actually a pretty regular occurrence, probably happening about once a month every other month. My favorite was when someone had gotten very high on acid and locked themselves in the bathroom because they were with their family and didn't want them to find out. The cruise docked and when it was time to go, the family was panicking trying to find him. Security eventually found him and he admitted that he was planning on leaving his family here while he did the cruise a second time. Honestly, there was no way he could have gotten away with this because they make sure everyone is off the boat before we let more people on, and if we didn't find him then, the cleaning crew would have. My ex told me this story. When we split up he said he was messed up mentally about it. If that's your excuse then okay. So he went on a singles cruise with his buddy. The problem was, he was in his early 30s and everyone else was like 45 plus. The cruise isn't helping his mood at all until they land in Jamaica and him and his buddy take a taxi to some bar in the bush. There he meets a pretty girl, wins a game of pool. Life feels good again. They hear the warning signal for the cruise so they get back on the boat. My ex was shook and didn't want to continue, so he put important documents in a plastic bag and jumped off the boat. Although he's a newfie, he swims like a rock and Jamaican authorities had to rescue him. Then they questioned him for 24 hours. Are you sane? Do you have money to get home? Until he was able to call the bar chick he had met to verify his story. They released him and gave him 3 weeks to visit play on the island. The rest of the story is pretty boring. He stayed and played hide the weenie for a few weeks until he started getting hit up for money all the time. But the funny thing was, I met a guy from Jamaica. I live in northern Canada. And I told him this story and he knew about it. Apparently my ex is island law now lol. I've worked on ships, Please for the love of God don't do this. It screws up everyone's day. The computer knows who all is on board and they can't get the new passengers on board while any old passengers are still on. The new passengers end up waiting outside in the heat longer. They get angry. And then the staff has to deal with upset passengers plus everything is running behind schedule. It doesn't work. They'll find you. Security knows how to check the whole ship. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, drop a like and subscribe. Please check out more of our videos or our playlist. It is perfect for when you want background noise or to put on when you are falling asleep. Once again, thank you and have a great day.